Hello, Peaceful Valley Church. It's Friday. We've come to the end of another week. This is still a work day, and some of you have been able to continue working, not all of you. And just the idea of work, again, as we've come to the end of our week, draws my attention to the fact that God is a God who works. Today we want to turn in our Bibles to Genesis chapter 1, the very end of the chapter. We see in this part of the scriptures the story of how God created everything. And God had a desire. He had a plan to make a creation. He organized it. He gave it rules, and he gave it objects who were supposed to follow these rules. And he set this creation in order. And at the very end of this creation, in Genesis chapter 1, starting in verse 27, we see God finish up his work. And there's two things I want us to notice. One, that mankind is created in God's image and in God's likeness. And the second thing that we see is that God is a God who works. And so Genesis chapter 1, starting in verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them. And God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth and to every bird of the heavens and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. When we see this creation, we see that God's work came to a completion. He worked until it was completed. He looked at his work and he declared it good. This is the way that God works. We see this idea of work and rest and the idea of Sabbath. It actually has a gospel flavor to it as we see the storyline of work and Sabbath play out through the rest of the scriptures. We see that the perfect work that brings perfect rest is actually Jesus on the cross. But before we get to that, if we can just see what Genesis 1 is teaching us about work, that God works. God does work. Work is a blessed and beautiful and glorious thing. And not only that, mankind has been created in God's image and in God's likeness. Therefore, man works. And man's work, though today it's a toil because of sin, work by itself can be a glorious and wonderful and majestic thing. And so today, the end of our work week, my hope for you is that you can look back on your week of work and say, yeah, it was good. Things got done. Things are better now than they were at the beginning of the week. We were able to finish a project or move a project along, and we can identify the parts and pieces that we engaged with. Even this morning, I got the opportunity to do some mechanic work. And though it's not finished yet, I can see what has been done. And it was hard, and there was frustration, and it wasn't perfect. But honestly, I can step back and I can say, yeah, it was good. My hope is that you would work that way as well. That as you engage in projects, maybe they're in the house, maybe they're different projects than you usually engage in. I mean, this is quarantine season. Maybe you're doing different jobs and different projects than you usually would, and yet still the intent is, if we're created like God, in his likeness, then our work should resemble his. It should be creative and life-giving and beneficial and good. And so, on that note, especially in quarantine season, we might be likely to count this as laziness season. The season where we take all work off. And my encouragement to you is, well, maybe this might be a time of rest and a little bit of leisure, but there's never really a time in any of our lives, whether it's quarantine season or spring break or summer break or retirement, where you stop working. We're not designed to stop working. We're designed to keep working. That's what it means to be created in God's image and in His likeness. And so my encouragement to you, even today, end of the work week, find a project that needs done. And recognize that you're created in God's image and in His likeness. And just like how God works, today you can work on something. It might be a project that you've been putting off because you just don't have time, but look at now. You've got all the time in the world. Maybe it's something you really didn't want to do. It was cleaning something, preparing the garden, organizing something. Today is another day for doing something beautiful and glorious, like work with your hands. And so today, let's have this day finish up a week of work that declares the glory of God, because we're created in His likeness and we work the way He does, and that we might work well so that at the end of our work week we can look at it and say, it's good. May God be with us as we work with our hands this week. Have a good day, Peaceful Valley Church. Goodbye.